we'll be starting with our first head of income, that is salaries. And it's very, very important head of income from examination point of view. Salaries, it is section 15 to section 17. So fundamentally, for any income to be taxed under this head, the relationship is to be seen. The relationship between the payer and payee. The payer and payee must be of the employer and employee. What you have to see is the relationship. The relationship between the payer and payee must be of employer and employee. That is, master and servant relationship must be there. For any income to be taxed under this head, payer is a master, payee is the recipient, is the servant. The master and servant relationship or employer and employee relationship is there. Now, you will be computing the income under the head salaries. So first of all, you will be computing. How you will be computing? First of all, you will be seeing what is the basic salary. Basic salary, that is say fully taxable. Then what are your allowances? We have to see that. Then what are the perquisites? That are the facilities. And what are the profits in lieu of salary? We add all the same to determine what? Gross salary. And from gross salary, we allow standard deduction of the salary income of rupees 50,000, say which is less, standard deduction is allowed. And in case of government employees, deduction is given on account of an entertainment allowance and deduction is given for employment tax. Then our, that is a net salary, or that is the income under the head salary. So fundamentally, what you have to see is, first of all, we will be going with the basic concepts. Then we will be discussing how you will be computing the income under the head salaries. So first of all, we are discussing the basic concepts of salaries. So first and the foremost aspect which is to be seen is the relationship between the payer and the payee must be of master and servant, employer and employee relationship must be there. Master and servant relationship must be there. Master and servant relationship must be there. There is what? Contract of service. For the income to be taxed under the head salaries, there must be what? Contract of service. Basically, there must be contract of service. Here, the payee, that is the recipient, is bound to work under the control and supervision is bound to work under the control and supervision of the payer. He is what? Bound to work under the control and supervision of the payer. Then the income will be taxed under the head salaries. So there must be a contract of service, so where the employee is bound to work under the control and supervision of the payer. He can offer his services only to his employer, nobody else. Whereas in case of contract for service, if there is a contract for service, if there is a contract for service, then the income is taxed under PGBP. If there is a contract for service. So here a person can offer his services to any person. Here a person can offer his services to any person who is willing to pay charges for the same. Who is what? Willing to pay charges for the same. So first of all, we have to see that is in case of salary head of income, there is a contract of service, there is a relationship of master and servant. Here, what as per the instructions of the employee has to act. Then in that particular circumstance, taxability arises under this head. Whereas in case of say this, that is when there is a principal and agent relationship. When there is a principal and agent relationship, the income won't be taxed under the head salaries, but will be taxable under the head profits and gains of business and profession. We have seen income under the head salaries. Taxability will be seen under section 15. Meaning of salaries been given under section 17. And deductions we have already seen, that has been given in section 16. So here we have to see employer and employee relationship. So in one is the case of employee and one is the case of an independent professional. In case of an independent professional, that independent professional can act for any person. There is as such no boundation that he will act for the payer. He can act for any person, basically who is willing to pay charges for the same. So if in case of an independent professional, the income so received is taxable under profits and gains of business and profession. It is taxable under profits and gains of business and profession. Then in case if teachers are there and they have been given task of evaluation of copies by the CBSE, by the board or by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, or say invigilation task is given, and here they are not acting as what? Employee. Not acting as an employee. And when they are not acting as an employee, in such a case, the remuneration so received by them, it will be taxable under, same will be taxable under, say, their income from other sources. It won't be taxable under the, salary head. In case if that, this paper setting or evaluation part is forming service contract of employment, is the same forms under the service contract of employment. In that case, whatever remuneration is received, the same will be chargeable to tax under the head salaries. Then MLAs and MPs, members of Legislative Assembly, members of Parliament, they are not government employees. They are not government employees. They are basically not the government employees, but elected representatives. They are not the government employees, but they are what? The elected representatives. Hence, in case if any salary is received by them from the Consolidated Fund of India, the salary received by MLA or MP, salary which has been received by them, it will be taxable under the head income from other sources. The same will be taxable under the head income from other sources. And however, if this MLA or MP is given charge of ministry, he has been given charge of ministry of any department. So he becomes a minister of finance, or say home minister, home affairs, in that case, the salary which has been received by them, that will be taxable under the head salaries, because they have now defined duties and responsibilities which they owe to the government. In that case, if they are assigned any charge of ministry, then in that case, whatever remuneration is received by them, the same will be taxable under the head salaries. Remuneration of judges. Their judges basically are constitutional functionaries, but their employment is created through the constitution, Hence, if any remuneration is received by the judges of court, the same will be chargeable to tax under the head salaries, as their employment is created through constitution. Therefore, whatever salary is received by them, it will be taxable under the head salaries. Whereas in case of advocate general, they are not basically the employees, and retainership fees which is received by the advocate general, the same will be taxable under the head profits and gains of business and profession. So the retainership fees which is received by an advocate general who gives advices to the government on various issues, the same will not be taxable under the head salaries, because they give advice in their professional capacity, and hence the retainership fees which is received by them, it will be taxable under the head profits and gains of business and profession. Now, the pay and allowances which are given to the chief minister of any state, the same will be chargeable to tax under the head salaries. So this is what about the basic concept. Then section 15 is, salaries. Section 15 basically it is salaries, and it is charging section. It is what? Charging section. And as per section 15, how salary is taxed? Salary is taxed on due basis or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. Here, salary is taxed on due basis or receipt basis, whichever is, say, earlier. Salary is taxed on due basis. That is, any salary due from an employer or former employer to an assessee in the previous year, whether paid or not. Any salary which is due from an employer or former employer, whether the same is paid or not, it will be taxable. Then, any salary paid or allowed to him in the previous year. Any salary which is paid or allowed to him in the previous year by or on behalf of an employer or former employer, though not due or before it became due. Any salary which is paid or allowed to him in the previous year by or on behalf of an employer or former employer, though it is not due or before it became due. So if an advance has been received, that is, advance salary is received, it is taxable on what? Receipt basis. The same is taxable on receipt basis. Then it is any arrear of salary. Any arrear of salary. There is a retrospective revision of salary. If there is a retrospective revision of salary, then the same will be chargeable to tax. The same will be chargeable to tax when it is so received, because the salary has not become due earlier. So any arrear of salary paid or allowed to him in the previous year by or on behalf of the employer or former employer, if it is not charged to tax in the earlier previous year. So fundamentally we can say salary is taxed on due basis or say receipt basis, which was earlier. Say we have a salary, an employee is drawing a salary of 25,000 per month. So 25,000 into 12, that is 3 lakh rupees. It may be a possibility that he has been not paid. Salary has become due. So that will be taxable. In case if he has received 2 months salary in advance, then in that particular circumstance, this 12 month salary is taxable. 3 lakh rupees. Besides this, 2 months further salary will be taxable because advance salary is taxed on what? Receipt basis. So that is what any, salaries are taxed on due basis or say receipt basis, which was earlier. Now an explanation has been provided that in case if you receive any advance salary, in case salary is received in advance, in case salary is received in advance and same is taxable on receipt basis, the same is taxable on receipt basis. If you have received salary in advance and it is taxable on receipt basis, then it will not be taxable again. It will not be taxable again when such salary becomes due. When such salary becomes due, it won't be taxable again. So here, where any salary is paid in advance and the same is included in the total income of any person for any previous year on receipt basis, then it shall not be included again. It won't be included again in the total income of that person when the salary becomes due. It won't be included again when the same becomes due. Then, if any salary is received by a partner of a firm from such firm, if salary is received by a partner of a firm from such firm, the same will be taxable under the head profits and gains of business and profession, because partners are owners and not the employees. And not the employees. So here, any salary, bonus, commission or remuneration, any salary, bonus, commission or remuneration, by whatever name called, due to or received by a partner of a firm from the firm, shall not be regarded as salary for the purpose of the section. It won't be regarded as salary for the purpose of the section. So any salary, bonus, commission or remuneration, by whatever name called, due to or received by a partner of firm from the firm, the same will not be taxable under the head salaries, but it will be taxable under the head profits and gains of business and profession. That has been provided in section 15, explanation 2. So fundamentally, salary is taxed on due basis or receipt basis, whichever is say earlier. Then section 17, it defines salary in an inclusive manner. How salary has been defined? Salary includes wages. So wages are given to the workers. That will also be taxed under this head. Any annuity or pension, if any equal sum is received on monthly from say superannuation fund or pension is received, that will be covered under the head salaries. Gratuity, it is covered, it's about a retirement benefit. You already read Gratuity Act 1972 in your course of law. Then any fees, commission, perquisites. Perquisites are facilities. They are what? Facilities. Say, he has been provided house facility. He has been provided car facility. So these are what the facilities. So any fees, commission, perquisites, or profits in lieu of or in addition to salary or wages, that will also be taxed under section 17. Perquisites are defined under 17(2), and profits in lieu of salary is defined in section 17(3). Then if any advance salary is received, any advance salary, the same will be taxed under this head. Then earned leave salary. If any earned leave salary is received, it is also taxable. So any payment received by an employee, any payment which is received by an employee in respect of any leave which has not been availed by him. There are paid leaves. So here, if a employee has not availed the leaves, he encashes those, leave salary. That encashment which is received, it will be taxable under this head, salary, that has been defined in salary. Then the annual accretion to the balance at the credit of an employee which is participating in recognized provident fund to the extent taxable. That is basically the employer's contribution. It is employer's contribution in recognized provident fund in excess of 12% of salary, or say interest credited to PF in excess of 9.5% per annum. Interest which is credited to PF in excess of 9.5% per annum. That is taxable. Then transferred balance is taxable. Transferred balance. What is transferred balance? That is from unrecognized provident fund to recognized provident fund. We have seen these 3 points in deemed receipts. Transferred balance from unrecognized provident fund to recognized provident fund. If earlier your fund was unrecognized and subsequently the fund has been given recognition, and subsequently what happens? The fund has been given recognition. In case the fund is a recognized provident fund from the very inception, if the fund is a recognized provident fund from the very inception, then every year how much amount would have been taxable? Would be taxable in the year in which the fund is given recognition. So that is, they are saying, transferred balance of an employee participating in recognized provident fund to the extent taxable. Then whatever contribution is made by the central government or any other employer in the pension account, in the pension scheme, which has been referred under section 80 CCD, that is also what? Taxable. So this is what, we have discussed about these aspects. Then we'll be discussing about the various other aspects. Then in other aspects, we have, say, a fixed pay scale and a graded pay scale. Say your financial year is 20XXXY and assessment year is 20XYXZ. So if we have a fixed pay, in case you are getting a salary of say 25,000 rupees per month, it is fixed pay. So 25,000 into 12, that is 3 lakh rupees will be your salary. But you may be employed in a grade. So person may be employed in a grade. Say his salary is 15,000, then an annual increment of 500 rupees is there till his salary reaches 20,000. Then annual increment of 1,000 rupees is there till it reaches say 30,000. Then annual increment of 1,500 is there till he reaches say 45,000. So likewise, this is a graded scale. So in first year, when he is employed, his salary is 15,000. Then the second year, it will be 15,500. Likewise, it will be 16,000. Then whenever it reaches 20,000 rupees, then his increment will be yearly increment of 1,000 rupees there. So this is what graded pay. So in case of fixed pay, the employee receives a fixed amount, whereas in case of graded pay, depending upon the pay scale in which he is employed, he gets an annual increment. Then there is a case of a tax-free salary. Tax-free salary means what? Whatever tax due on salary is paid by the employer. Whatever tax is due on the salary, that is paid by the employer, so that in hands of an employee, whatever amount of tax he receives is say tax free. So for example, if the gross salary is say will be how much? Say if he is receiving basic salary of 4 lakh rupees and tax amounting to the same, amounting say 5,000 rupees is paid by the employer, then in that case 4 lakh 5,000 will be his salary. 5,000 tax is paid by the employer, employee will get the credit of the same. Then there is a concept of kya? Loan against salary and advance against salary. So loan against salary, that is basically what? Employee is taking a loan and he will be what? Repaying the same in kya? Fixed installments. That is loan against salary. It means that the employee takes a loan from his employer. So he has taken a loan of 50,000 rupees and say he is saying that I will repay the same in 10 installments. And he agrees to pay the same in specified number of installments, and such installments may be deducted from the salary of the employee due to him in subsequent months. That is loan against salary. Whereas advance against salary means what? Employee takes salary in advance. When he takes salary in advance, no adjustments will be made. He won't be getting the salary for the period for which he is taking the same in advance. Say if I am taking the salary for the month of April and May in advance in March, then in that case I won't be getting any salary in say April and May. So it means the employee takes advance against salary and agrees to get the same adjusted from his salary subsequently. And thus here advance against salary, as we have seen, is taxable. Advance salary is taxable. And loan or advance against salary, basically the same, is not taxable. Advance salary is different. Advance salary, that is taxable. Loan or advance against salary is not taxable. So advance salary means that an employee receives a salary before it becomes due to him, and hence it is taxable on receipt basis. Advance salary basically is what? Taxable on receipt basis. As soon as we have seen, if he has taken a salary in advance, then in that particular circumstance it will be taxable on receipt basis. Then there is a case of foregoing of salary and surrender of salary. If employee foregoes salary, before, say after such salary becomes due, if the employee foregoes a salary after such salary becomes due, then same is taxable in the hands of the employer. The same is taxable in the hands of the employer. Whereas in case of surrender of salary, that is salary is surrendered to the central government under Voluntary Surrender of Salary Taxation Exemption Act 1961, the same will be what? Exempt from tax. It will be exempt from tax. Now, what annuity means? Annuity basically is the yearly sums payable to the person. It may be received monthly or it may be received quarterly. The same may be received annually. If the same is received from present employer, it is taxable under the Act salaries. If it is received from past employer, it will be taxable as profits in lieu of salary. And if it is received from any other person other than the employer, it will be taxable under the Act income from, say, other sources. Then, place of accrual of salary we have discussed under section 912 as well as 913. Place of accrual of salary. In last chapter we have discussed that in case place of accrual of salary is what? Where services are rendered. In 913, in case of an Indian citizen, if the government employee, in case of Indian citizen, government employee, services rendered outside India, income is deemed to accrue or rise in India, income is deemed to accrue or rise in India, and the same is taxable. So, income under the head salaries, which is deemed to accrue or rise in India, is the same is payable for services which have been rendered in India. Besides, in case of an Indian citizen, a government employee, Indian citizen is government employees there, services are rendered outside India, income is what? Deemed to accrue rise in India. However, foreign allowances, as we have discussed, and perquisites are exempt under section 10(7). They are exempt under section 10(7). So first of all, it is a case of an Indian citizen, whether resident or non-resident, employs government of India, services are rendered outside India, salary will be taxable, allowances and perquisites will be what? Exempt under section 10(7). In case he is a non-resident or not ordinarily resident, whatever the case may be, any employer, if it is outside India, it won't be taxable. If it is in India, the same will be taxable. In case of resident, as you are aware, for resident, worldwide income is taxable. So if wherever the services are rendered, the same will be taxable in India. So that was about the initial concepts which we have discussed about determination of, the concept that is salaries, how the income will be taxed under the head salaries, what were the basic concepts in the charging section which we have discussed, and various aspects of salary we have discussed. Now, we will be discussing certain more issues, then we'll be going for individually how allowances will be taxed, how perquisites will be taxed, and how we will be computing the income under the head salaries, comprehensive aspects, we'll be discussing the same.